for you today. Thank you for inviting me. It's a while since we've chatted, so it's lovely to see you again and catch up personally as well as professionally. A lot of my families call me Caro, so it's Carolyn or Caroline sometimes, or Caro, so don't worry about that. It's very relaxed. I don't expect to be called Mrs. Blackshaw. Some of the teachers and some of the staff at school do expect to be called, but often students will call me Miss Caro or Madame Caro, or but they can call me Caro or Miss Caro. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Brookehouse College is a really exciting place to work, and I think it's exciting, it's got energy, it's got a vibrancy about it, and what makes it vibrant and makes it have that lovely positive international feel is that we have 58 different nationalities. So you can imagine that lovely mix. We've got lots of British students, but we've also got people from all around the world. 58 different countries are represented in the college, and everybody sharing their different personalities, their different cultures, and all coming together to make this Brookhouse family. We at Brookhouse, we've been operating for way over 50 years, getting on for 53 years now, and it is, has an international dimension to it. We respond to the needs very well of international students, and I think that closeness and the fact that almost all our students board helps them progress and helps them achieve and helps us to build really good bridges and professional relationships with the parents, guardians, and also agents who've been supporting their application. My role at the college, I'm the Director of Marketing, and we're quite a small college really, and a lot of staff do lots of varied things. I don't just meet people at the marketing end, I'll also be wanting to know how students are getting on, how families are getting on. So once you've introduced a family, or a family starts with their child at Brookhouse, they get to know the team very well, and we want to get to know them, and we want to be able to get to know the child and see how they progress and develop with us.
Fantastic.
Is that enough of an introduction?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. So, one of the questions parents would always like to know is, what makes your college stand out? Everybody would say, oh, we do this, it's a very similar. Most colleges or boarding schools are similar, but what really makes Brookhouse stand out amongst other colleges?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I think we're very much looking at individual needs. So I think yes, a lot of boarding schools and a lot of schools and colleges are very similar, but a lot of them have a percentage of international students, and then those students are maybe the boarders who stay at weekends, whereas our students, 98% of them are boarding right through Monday to Sunday. So the school looks very familiar to them. It looks very similar on a Monday to how it might appear on a Sunday. If they're in maths with a friend on Wednesday, they can have breakfast with them on Saturday. So it's a very consistent feel. A lot of boarding schools in the UK have compulsory exeats, and I'm not sure whether everybody understands what we mean by that. A compulsory exeat is often when a school decides that certain weekends within a term that every student has to leave the school because no staff will be there, the school will be totally closed. And I think at Brookhouse they realise that if you have international families, that is very, very inconvenient for those families. So, that was just one thing they decided to do at the school, not to have compulsory exeats. And conversely, if you turn that on its head, we have exeats by arrangement. So I'll give you an example. We had a very eminent lawyer from Nigeria, whose both children came to study with us. Both mum and dad are barristers, and one holds a very significant position within the nation. And he often used to fly through London on his way from Nigeria over to the States. And he used to say, is it okay if I can pop up and see my daughter while she's studying with you and on Wednesday evening? And we would say, of course. And a lot of schools do not have that level of flexibility. We are not going to turn international parents away. We're going to suggest, if that they were doing exams or if there was something on, we might make a suggestion what the timings would be, when it might be convenient. We would be making sure that they were aware of what time their house had to be closed down and bedtime was in that house. But we are going to flex. Who in their right mind would turn a father away when he's transiting through London, wanting to see his daughter? We're not going to. We're going to work with that family to make sure that happens. Because if you've got happy parents, happy daughter, that daughter is going to be, focused on her studies, happy and carrying on, and happy children achieve, as far as I'm concerned.
That's awesome. I think I like that. And I know parents would like that as well. I think I like the exit plan where they don't have to go compulsorily, because at least it saves guardianship costs for those who would have to look for a guardian. And, some parents don't even want their kids to go to families in the case, so they don't have to worry about that. So I think that's a very brilliant one. Okay,
and the other thing we have is that October, February and May, they are midterm breaks in the UK schools, and we don't make our children leave. They can stay at no extra cost. And that was one of the things. I know you're going to talk a little bit more about the pandemic and that affected us, but if you imagine when the pandemic, the news started to break, that was January time, 2020, end of January, and a lot of schools were panicking. What were they going to do with their children in February half term? But Brookhouse wasn't panicking. Brookhouse knew that we could keep our children because that was what our routine was. If they wanted to stay, they could stay. And so when other schools were still trying to work out what to do in February, we were already thinking ahead. What happens at Easter? Could we put on the equivalent of summer school, but Easter holiday camp, if we need to support our students who might not be able to go home? So I think there are a lot of things in place that have proven the benefits of us being a truly international school and truly having really strong links with our parents, guardians, agents, whoever, to be able to respond very quickly in a crisis and very professionally in a crisis.
That's great. So it just shows that you guys were very COVID-19 ready. You were very proactive with because that's the question I wanted to ask, that, what has been the college response to the current pandemic? I know I attended the British Boarding Schools workshop, and I know that there were a lot of schools who were a bit daunted with the whole new plan and arrangement on how to take care of their students, whether they were to travel or to stay, and all of that. But it shows that you guys were already ready for this. So what other things did you put in place for?
I think in essence, we all the way along, it was parent and student choice. So if you wanted to remove your child as of tomorrow and get them to the airport and facilitate them back to their home country, then we were there to support them. But a lot of families said, no, we think it's safer that they stay at school, because you've got Market Harborough, where we're based, is a lovely little sleepy rural town, and we've got all our own facilities. We're a small school. So first of all, we facilitated that parent choice, because borders were closing and some parents chose one thing and other parents chose another. So initially the schools weren't told to close, so we carried on as normal. We have small classes anyway, and then when the notification came for schools to close, then that was when we went completely online, and students were in their own bubbles in their houses, their residential houses with residential tutors. All the meals were delivered. Some of the football training was in the garden. You know, there were films on social media of the girls doing Zumba in the garden and being doing that. And they were doing distance learning, but in effect they were very close to school. So all their day-to-day didn't change that much in terms of they were locked down in a residential house. But they weren't with strangers, and they were with their pals, and they were in their own bubbles. So that was easily done. The British Boarding Schools Association have now issued a COVID safe charter, of which Brookhouse is a member of that charter now. And lots of the policies and procedures that we've had to introduce, and these do change a little bit, because every time there's a government announcement, it could, you know, it could make things a bit better or a bit worse, or whatever, you know. So lots of things like one-way systems, masks, cleansing, double wiping in classrooms, how many you can have in a classroom, how many have to be in a bubble, having our own self-isolation for students who are coming over from countries where they are expected to have 14 days. And I think we were able to introduce that quite quickly. The self-isolation is an interesting one, because a lot of countries, if they make you self-isolate, they put you in a government facility. And this is really, you're coming straight from the airport, you're going to arrive at Brookhouse, and you are going to be meeting some of the Brookhouse staff, and you're going to be in a Brookhouse facility with your meals delivered from the catering team, and everything is like Brookhouse, but you haven't got the liberty and the freedom to go circulating just yet. But you can imagine it's a lot better and less scary than going into a government facility somewhere.
Yeah, and for young kids, I don't think that is advisable. You know, they would get really unsettled.
So we've had parents drop the students off. We've had other parents who've chosen. I've just had some parents from Kenya arrive, and they've chosen to come as a family and do 14 days in a hotel suite together as a family and isolate together. So different people take different decisions and make different decisions, and we understand that. With the policies and procedures that we introduced to be a COVID safe school, because we have summer school in July and August, it was significantly smaller than this year than it had been other years. But Wiley, our director of summer school, was able to trial out and test out all the new procedures, everything we thought. So then weren't academically written on paper. They were tested out in practice. So they were ready in September when the students arrived. We knew what worked, we knew what needed tweaking. So that, I think that made a big difference to us as well. Whereas some of the schools that were closed right the way through the summer are only on week 3 of trying to get it right, really, in terms of the COVID safe procedures.
That's great. That's great. So another question is, what universities do students progress to after Brookhouse? That's a question that a couple of parents would always like to.
So one thing I would, which has just reminded me, one thing I would remind parents to do is follow us on social media. And we've just put out a post, and it's because we are a football academy as well as a school. And sometimes people think, oh, we don't do academics, we just do football, because that's you know, that's the thought that they've got, that's how they know us. And we've just put out a post of our 3 boys footballers, and it gave their A-level grades, which were excellent, and they've gone to Warwick, Manchester and Nottingham Trent. And the guy who chose Nottingham Trent could have gone to a far higher ranking university, but he's an athlete and he wants football, and it's a particular programme that he wanted to go to, and he wants to be with them because they're very, very good at football and sport as well. So you've got an example there: Warwick, Manchester, Nottingham Trent. Loads of different universities that our students go to, especially from the foundation programmes and from our A-levels. And I think, again, that's testimony to how we really look at somebody and what they're looking for and what they want to achieve and where it's best for them. Okay. So I gave you the example of the barrister's children, and one's gone to Sheffield and one's gone to Birmingham to do law. So, you know, it's very much looking at the individual. And sometimes you might have parents, if they're wanting their child to go into a similar business to themselves, they may have already studied at a particular law school or a particular architecture program somewhere. So there are lots of influences and there's lots of reasons why people choose, and it's not always ranking, and we work with students to look at how the program's ranked, not just the university.
True.
And you know, if you want civil engineering, look at what the best universities are for civil engineering, and look which top companies are recruiting from that course. So we do a lot in terms of the careers advice with the students, and we'll get them the 5 offers, and they will accept their preferred choice and their insurance choice. But if students are looking to go further afield, go to the US or wherever, then we facilitate that for them as well. So if they want to take SATs to be able to go to the US and apply for a university place there, then we do that. Some of our footballers are doing quite well with universities in the US, because they may not have managed to get a massive scholarship at school, but then they're getting a really, really good scholarship in terms of their football ability, to be able to get their fees paid for in a US university. So then, you know, it's deferred gratification, really. They're getting something because they spent time developing with us and developing their professionalism in terms of their football.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. And I think for parents to know that it's not really advisable to look at the general rankings of universities. They should also focus on the course rankings and probably a bit of career employability rates of the universities, because that's something that they also need to look at as well.
So there are some statistics that the universities have to provide, and I think it used to be called DELI, and it's Destination of Leavers, and they're looking people when they've left a year, 2 years, 3 years after that programme, to see what sort of roles that they're employed in. And I think that's an important one, as you say, because at the end of the day, you want employability. Most people want employability at the end of a programme.
Very, very important.
And also, in terms of school rankings, I know a lot of people think that, you know, that everybody's in the ranking. They're not. Schools can opt not to be in the list, okay? And they don't have to be in the list. And also, a lot of these directories of schools pay to go into the directory. So if you pick up a directory and Brookhouse isn't in there, that's because I chose this year not to put an advert in that directory. So, you know, sometimes parents think that is like the telephone directory. You can opt to be X directory. We opt to be X directory often, and we don't enter into the rankings. Now, I'll explain a little bit about that, because I think your parents will find that interesting. if a school that's very set on ranking will often be highly selective and will only have intakes at certain times of the year, and would probably, the majority of their students would have English as their first language. So let's change, you know, Brookhouse, you've got flexibility. We've got a January start. You could come for a 1-year foundation program. You might start when you're 11. You might stay until you're 19, but they are few and far between. But a student we take on at 11 and coach all the way through is going to do a lot better than a student who just arrives, you know, with maybe not very much English and is 17 and we need to improve their English. So there's a difference there. We do not have entrance tests just to cream off the top 10% of intellect. So we're actually responding to all by meeting the needs of that individual and seeing what class is best for them, what they need, what course, and very much looking at that bespoke education to see how we can get that person where they want to be. Okay.
So talking about no entrance test, so what do you do for students who come in? I know most boarding schools want to do an entrance test with, which sometimes some parents
we will do a test, or we'll look at their YX, or we'll look at their current results to see where they're at, but it's more a placement test rather than a yes or a no. So we want the student to be a good match for the school. We want them to be help us to choose the right person who's going to be a good match for our school and they're going to be happy with us. But we're not expecting them, if they don't hit 85% in a certain, we don't take them. We're more looking to see if that person doesn't hit an acceptable standard in maths, what can we give them in terms of their whole package to ensure that their maths is up to standard by the time they go to university. It's a slightly different way of looking at things. We're looking at somebody as a whole picture and seeing where the gaps are. Gaps might in education that was younger than they are when they join us. We want to fill those gaps, enhance what they've done, and put on top the program that they're going to do. Okay, so if somebody speaks English as a second language, it's not you know, for Nigeria, because that isn't the case at all. But if, say, somebody was from, I don't know, Malaysia, and their English language, sometimes they might be good at maths, but it's the language around maths that we need to teach them so that they can understand the equation and understand the question better, because if they can understand what's being asked of them, suddenly the grade goes up. So there's lots of different ways of looking at why somebody needs something in a different way.
I think I like those little differences that you've introduced.
A lot of students like the foundation program because that is assessed on a more modular basis. So you know where you're heading far sooner than you do on A levels. So you're going to get modules, you're going to be assessed, you'll have exams, you'll have assignments, and you'll also get the opportunity to retake. So if you have a really bad assignment or a really bad exam and you just get graded a D or only just scrape through a pass or whatever, then you can say, no, I want to resit that exam and I want to be able to get. So you can track your progress as you're going along and make sure that you're on target. Hopefully doing this. So that's another way that we try to flex to everybody's needs.
So talking about one of your flexibilities, you mentioned something about January start. So I wanted to ask you what is new and what is different. One of the things that are different, I know you mentioned, is your January start. So for those who are thinking of coming in, I know September has gone, but maybe if you still have spaces, you could let us know if there's a January 2021 start. Most boarding schools don't have that, and you guys have that. And if there are any discounts or scholarships or deadlines for people who are looking at either still joining late, it's kind of late, but I don't know whether you'd accept that, but maybe January 2021 to allow them to apply for visas and all of that. So what would you like to say about that?
Okay, so if I do it in chronological order then, in terms of September 2020, so now this term, we already planned that not everybody will arrive for a very neat start at the beginning of September for lots of reasons beyond everyone's control. So whether that's visas, flights, not being able to get a flight, lots of reasons. So if you've got any parents who are thinking, we really ought to send them as soon as possible, talk to us, okay? We are still accepting, we've got spaces and we are still accepting late arrivals, okay? And the nearer it gets to Christmas, then, you know, we're going to talk to families and we'll advise whether they defer to January 21 or whether we can squeeze them in. Okay. For Nigeria, your flights really have only just recently started up and running. What was it? First week of September, second week of September?
Yeah, first week, I think 5th September. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so some, whereas we've got some families on the starting block, weren't you told it was going to be mid-August at one time?
Yeah, it was supposed to be, I think, 29th of August. It was shifted by like a week. So I think it opened, September 5th.
So I know I'd got some families who were on the starting block, you know, they were going to leave the minute and then it was delayed a week and then some people are waiting to see what happens. So, so we understand all those different reasons, but if you're wishing that you had got on a flight at the 5th of September and were coming over to the UK, then talk to us and we can, you know, see what we can do. Okay. We have students arriving every day. I've just been talking to a mum earlier whose son is arriving on Wednesday. So yeah, there are lots of reasons why people might arrive late. So we want to be flexible. We want to get people settled as soon as possible. And that mum I was talking to earlier, she said she had the decision of keeping him home and doing January, but he was already had left his school, and she didn't want him kicking around for 2 months at home and some more until January. So that was the final decision for her when she thought that he was going to be hanging around for 3 months at home. She said, no, we'll send him as soon as possible. So that was the reasoning behind that. So our next official intake is January 21. Okay. And so even if somebody was going to do 5-term A-level, or if they wanted to start GCSEs at that stage, or they want to do fast track foundation. Now, when do your WIAC results come out? When are they released?
So I know that this last one that was done, since it was delayed, I'm not really sure when it's going to be released, but I know that hopefully before the end of the year, I'm hoping so. So if you need that for January, it's possible that you get that. I know some other schools were using predicted grades. So if you, for instance, students who had the GCSEs in their school or something like a mock result, I think some people were using that as well. So if
that's fine, that's fine. So if they wanted to do a fast track foundation program, they're not going to be disadvantaged. So if you started now or in September to do a foundation program and that finished for next summer, you would be going to university in September 21. If you arrive on our fast track January foundation, you can still go to university September 21. So and the reason is that we do an extra term as it is over the summer. Okay, so it doesn't finish until August.
So that's like a long stretch from January till August, and then they go into uni by September.
Yeah, but some people want to do that step change because they don't want to get out of step from other students who already started. So
Yeah.
it's a catch-up opportunity that doesn't exist very often in life, but it's an opportunity for them to stay on track along with their peers. So everybody who left school at the same time, who may have already started now, they've got an opportunity to go on. And some people it suits and some it doesn't, but it's an opportunity for you to consider if you think it suits any of your families that you're working with. And again, we're flexible. We'll do flexible entry as far as we possibly can. We can be more flexible the younger the child is because we're keeping them longer before significant exams.
Okay.
But every case is different. And I think that's one of the things that Brookhouse has learned, is to actually talk to you, talk to the parents, talk to the child. What is it about their profile? What is it they're trying to achieve? Let's see what we can help them with, rather than us telling you, this is our package, fit in it or go away. Yeah, we want to work with the individual and say, what is it that you're really looking for? What can we do to help you? And if we decide we can't help because it's out of our, remit, we're honest about that. But to be truthful, that's very rare, because we will extend what we do to include as many people as possible.
Brilliant, Caroline. So my last question, I guess, would be, I think I mentioned that already, the scholarships. The sound of scholarship is something that, people like to hear. Is like, music to the ear. So yes, what exactly do you have for?
So we have got a West Africa scholarship for Nigeria primarily, and that's looking for the equivalent of what would be 5 A's or A star, so the equivalent of at WIAC. So we're looking at plenty of A's on the WIAC results. And if we're going on predicted, or we're going on reports. Our Nigerian student, very good at football, our Nigerian boys, and girls. So often we've had students who manage to get a football scholarship. Now, it's never a full scholarship, it's only a partial, but it does make a difference for youngsters to be able to be with us. It does bring the fees down. If I can just blow our trumpet, we had 3 of your boys in the under-21 World Cup representing Nigeria. They were 3 Brookehouse College boys.
Wow.
And one of them, Success, is now playing for a Spanish team. Gold, I'm not sure what he's doing at the moment, and Ojo, I'm not sure, but it's nice to see these boys. They're so polite. 1 minute they're taking autographs, giving autographs at the World Cup, and the next minute they're just normal boys back at school saying hello Caro, and hello Sarah, and and why do you want our photographs for the school brochure? A lot, very, very understated and very low, very, very polite boys. So, and we have the children of some very famous Nigerian football players who are with us as well. It doesn't take much to do a bit of research and poking around the website to find out who we're talking about, or social media, but it's not for me to say names at the moment.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so I like the fact that you said the academic scholarship. So for those who maybe have some outstanding results in terms of the football, for instance, there's also a football scholarship, you said, right? So if they need more information, they can always contact us at our Excel Education Consulting. So my last question, I said last question before, but this is actually the final question.
In
general, so in general, what do you think parents should be looking out for in a boarding school? I know you've mentioned some of the things, but what do you think they should just look out for? Because I know this session would look very biased, like, you know, you're talking about your school. Of course, you promote your own school above other schools. But what do you think parents should just be looking out for in selecting?
Okay, I'm going to put my hat on. I'm going to put my mum hat on. Okay.
My exactly. Is that grandma's hat now? Not even mum.
Yeah, grandma exactly. Hat. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm part from your grandmother. So I think some of the things that that I would want in a school, I'd want it to be approachable. Okay, for me as a parent, I don't want to feel that I'm not able to ask questions, that I'm not able to go in and see my child at school, that I'm not able to challenge. And I want to feel that I can be more than that I can build up such a good relationship with the staff that when I get back in my taxi to go to the airport, I know there's a range of people that my child can approach. Without bias, without a problem, and with that. And I think that is one of the differences in having a good, strong team that's very international in terms of the responses. They understand that, you know, if somebody's feeling homesick or a range of different things, if we open with the students and with the children, and they can come to us early on and they've got a range of people to choose from, then we can nip anything in the bud before it becomes a big problem. What I would like to do as a parent is be able to speak to my child at night and me say, that really happened, did it? And so, you know, what do you want me to do? And I want my child to be able to say, I've already spoken to Caro or Sarah or Giles or Leo or somebody, and they have said they will help me with, because what I would want with my child, yes, naturally as parents we want to wade in and defend them and support them, but we at Brookhouse, and especially, we're trying to build maturity, confidence, prepare them well for university, and with that comes some independence. And I'd rather a child be able to say to me that they've already thought through the strategies, even if they're upset and they've only thought it through, and I suggest, have you spoken to, that they feel that they can. And if they can't, that I as the parent feel that I can. I want to be included. I want to be able to see what they're doing. So whether that's a parent portal, whether that's to be able to watch matches online. And I'm amazed at how many parents at Brookhouse decide when they come to look around that they're going to rent some property in the vicinity and hang around for a few months so that they can enjoy their time there. And they still put the children in boarding, but they're around the corner. And that isn't because they don't trust us, that's because they like it so much in the area, they decide they're going to move over for a while. What else would I be looking at? I would be looking at where students have gone. So instead of looking at the 16-year-old child, trying to think, wonder what they're like at 26, wonder what they're doing. So the fact that we have children of children who've studied at Brookhouse who come to us now. And actually this was a Nigerian family, and we all sat in the boardroom and we'd done the chat and we'd talked to the boy and interviewed the boy, and at the end, and the father had been very quiet, and at the end he said, well, I can't remember his name, son, you know, well, son, do you think you would like to come to Brookhouse? And he said, yes, I would, please can I come to Brookhouse? I want to study at Brookhouse. And he said, very good. And he said, now is the time to tell you that I actually studied at Brookhouse, and I have a lawyer's practice in Nigeria and one in London. So there you go, you see. Once parents are there choosing it as a school for their children, I think that's a good accolade, really.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Okay, do you want to say something else?
Summarize, I think.
Okay.
I want to be able to go in, I want to feel that the principal and the staff are approachable, and I want to feel listened to. I want to feel that my child has people to approach, and that I feel that they are very well supported whilst my back is turned and I've returned to my own country. And I think having those things underneath means that my child can focus on really working towards high achievement and the high expectations that are that Brookhouse or any school expects of them. But it's getting that foundation right so they can focus, so they're not worried about something minor, not in their head, but minor maybe in ours, because we can deal with it quite easily, that they're not worried about something tiny all day that means they don't take in any of their lessons. I want to get rid of all that so they're really focused on their studies. And the other thing, I think small class sizes really work.
You've really given us that. You've really won the grammar hat. I love all the points that you raised there. That's very, very, important.
And you're a mum as well. I mean, are those the sort of things that you think you'd be looking for your kids?
I think the first one you mentioned was spot on. The approachability, the ability for you to be able to talk to anybody. And that rest of mind that, your child is in safe hands, where you're not thinking, or where you can't sleep because she calls overnight or she's in trouble or something. And then you're already thinking of whether you're taking the next flight or looking for someone to go visit her in school. That peace of mind is what I think every parent would want, So I think that's spot on. That's spot on, Caroline.